Aloha and welcome to Returning to the Aina. My name is Timothy Reese and I'll be your guide on this journey. In this week's episode, we're going to continue our discussion regarding soil amendments, but we'll be looking at soil amendments that add microbial activity as well as mycelium into the soil. We're also going to take a look at the Korean natural farming method and some of their techniques and products that they use. One of them is a fertilizer that you can make at home, and the other is a bacteria solution. I just finished pounding a small batch of poi using some organic kalo I've grown, and this leftover poi water is going to be used in one of those Korean natural farming products. So we got a lot of work to do. Ehele mai. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the pH in the soil around my house. And I know this area was backfilled and compacted, so it's not very good, the soil. And I see that when I dig into the ground to plant things, that I have to amend it quite a bit to get organic matter and give it the right look and texture. So this is going to be exciting for me to get to see actually what I have. It's been a long time since I've actually done any sort of chemistry, probably since high school. So right here's some vinegar. This is a white vinegar, apple cider vinegar mix, and some baking soda. So this is about a half cup of soil, and about another half cup of soil, half cup of vinegar, half cup of baking soda. And you have some water here to convert this into a kind of a muddy water. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what happens. So there's really not a lot going on in there. There should be a reaction. So because the vinegar is acidic, if this soil was alkaline, then there should be a reaction there. And if there is no reaction in either of these, then it's supposed to tell me that this is neutral, the pH, which is kind of where you want to be. Most plants do really well in a slightly acidic environment, but an alkaline environment is microbes and other bacteria have a hard time growing in an alkaline environment. So in alkaline environments, you'll find a lot less of that microbial type activity. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of this baking soda in here. Let's see what happens. So there's not really a lot going on in there. It should be like a foaming. Here's the vinegar. So what's really interesting is this would indicate that my soil is in the neutral range.
What is worm casting? Is poop?
Worm castings are in fact worm poop. Worm castings are also one of the best soil amendments. It contributes to the overall structure of the soil, aids in water retention, as well as provides a variety of nutrients. This is a worm bin that was installed at Kunui Kapono that's about ready to harvest. Aloha, I'm here with Tammy Davis, and Tammy Davis does a number of cool things regarding sustainable agriculture, and she produces some of my favorite edible things, honey and mushrooms. But I'll let Tammy explain who she is and what she does.
All right, thank you. Super an honor to be here. And I have fallen in love with both mushrooms and bees. So I just learned about their relationship over many years. I learned about mushrooms in college, out of college, and then I started following these experts around who were looking for mushrooms, hunting them in the wild, and then cultivating them. And then really what I learned was that without the mushrooms, we wouldn't be here. Like when a tree falls in the desert, or say on the beach, does it rot very fast?
No, it doesn't.
And so there's water, there's plenty of water at the beach, the desert not so much, but something's missing. And there's really nothing else that can eat wood except mushrooms.
Wow.
So all the trees would be stacking up and they'd be piling up all around and nothing would ever break them down. And so if you don't have the fungi present in your system, there's like a roadblock to the organic process of life. So sometimes a mushroom will have a fruiting body, and that's like an apple from a tree. So you can pick it and you don't kill the actual original organism, just like picking an apple doesn't kill a tree. So really a fungus is a network of threads that are so small that even your hair is thicker than the strands of mycelium that are in the soil. And they go from everywhere. They cover all of the soil. Any healthy soil will have a whole network. I think it's like thousands and thousands of miles in a little centimeter of soil. And so the mycelium is how the organism feeds and moves and travels, grows through everything. It grows in and through between the grain of the wood. And it also grows within the root cells. They have relationships with plants. So they'll form these relationships by either connecting on the surface or going within the cells of the plants. And they exchange nutrients. So one thing about a mushroom is, what do we breathe in?
Oxygen.
And what do we exhale?
Carbon dioxide.
And we know that the plants are this nice companion because they breathe in carbon dioxide and they exhale oxygen. Well, what would you guess a mushroom would breathe in?
Carbon dioxide.
They're closer to animals than they are to plants. They breathe in oxygen just like we do, which is why when your yard flooded, it killed all the mycelium for a moment. They drown. They have to have a little bit of air. So they breathe oxygen and they exhale carbon dioxide. And so they have this very fleshy substance, like when they start knotting up and forming mushrooms, that's part of the reproductive cycle, just like a flower and a tree. They create spores in lots of different ways. And I have books and books and books of all the shapes and colors and sizes. Some of them make these beautiful jeweled colors like red jelly or bright blue flesh. Some of them release powdery spores and you touch them and they go poof like a smoke, like a puffball. Some of them dissolve into black ink and then just melt everywhere, and that's how they spread. Most of them, you might never see the fruiting body, and they live in the soil. And when we're cultivating amendments and we're doing our gardening and farming, the ones that benefit us the most are pretty invisible to us. And they're in our compost teas, they're in our healthy soil, they should be in all of our compost. And I know like in Korean natural farming and all these IMO, indigenous microorganisms, all of these are about cultivating both bacteria and fungi in your mix and keeping it alive. So they need a little bit of moisture and they need some air. So you don't want them just totally saturated and wet and soggy. Because what will you get if you have a totally solid, wet, mucky compost?
Not a lot of activity, probably.
You'll get anaerobic activity,
There you
right?
go.
And what does that smell like?
Yeah, not nice.
Smells, you know the smell. When something's dead and funky, you get that anaerobic smell. I think we react to that because more pathogens are in the anaerobic mix and more healthy things for us are in the aerated mix. So when you smell that smell, something's off. They're doing their job. They're breaking it down. They can survive without oxygen, but they usually produce methane. So it smells like farts or rotten eggs or you know how dead things smell.
Yeah.
So that's really, we don't really like to cultivate those because there's more pathogens in that style of. There is one exception, and have you come across the effective microorganisms, the EM?
I have, and I've actually used it.
So that has a healthy anaerobic microbe in it. So it's a microbe that can handle no oxygen. It can hang out in the muck, and yet it doesn't produce methane, so it's not going to smell bad. And it overpopulates the ones that do produce methane. So I was giving it to people up north when it flooded because their yards were all mucky and stanky and gross, and they were like, "Ugh, it feels gross."
Yeah.
And it still was decomposing, but it was in an unhealthy way. So you spray that EM on everything, and all of a sudden the smell goes away, and yet it's still rotting and doing its thing. It needs to,